Yeah, I have a win. I got a listing under contract last night, so I'm feeling good this morning.
That's great. That's
I
great.
got a, I got a
Was
win.
only 18 days on market, which to my seller felt like an eternity, but so I was kind of happy because she was a little bit of a nervous Nelly through the whole process and just kind of needed a lot of daily reassurance that this was kind of normal. And, you can have all the conversations all day long about it's going to take 30 days, 40 days, whatever, but, they don't hear that part
No,
when they're going
no.
through it.
It will become more normal, and human nature. They say, well, Sally, my neighbor, sold in a day, and then it gets her stressed out when she's on day 15. So we're all humans and we have to treat each other like humans. And sometimes that can be hard when we're juggling life and real estate and all of the things. Who else had something? Was it Erica who was talking? Oh, nope. Somebody was saying
Oh,
something.
I had a win. It's Sue. So,
Sue, hey, what's up?
hey, so well, I think it's a win. Like 7 months ago, I lost a listing appointment because the seller didn't like my price compared to what the other agent was saying they could get. So lo and behold, the house sat on the market for over 6 months, didn't sell, not one offer, decreased the price 150,000 over the course of that time frame. So now it's got a big red flag on it. But she came back to me and gave me the listing. So I'm getting ready to, it's on delayed status right now. Blake tried to get it, but sorry, Blake.
I did. I pushed hard
Good for
for it.
you. I said a good word for you, though. I said a good words about you.
How close are you to the original price that you suggested 6 months ago?
I am 25,000 under that right now because that's where it's sitting. But what I realized in putting the listing together was the other agent didn't, and I think this is how everybody does it, did not include the square footage of the ADU, the apartment above the garage, and the total square footage. So now I almost feel like it's underpriced based on price per square foot, but it is what it, I don't know. I'm not sure what to do with that because she was literally almost 500 square feet short.
I think that it's
That's a
just about
lot.
changing the listing. I mean, when I first got
Yeah.
in, my business was built on expired listings because in end of 2015, early 2016, houses sat on the market for 10 to 16 months. Erica, you remember this, right? Like, so the whole game was just getting the expired listings because the seller was fatigued, but they needed to sell.
Needs a fresh look. Yeah,
And we
absolutely.
gave it that fresh look. We did some
I'm
digital.
staging it too. I'm paying for staging. I'm selling this house.
Good. That's good. I mean, I think that that's what it's about. And I think it's interesting to see how these markets cycle and ebb and flow. And we're coming back into that expired game. And I think it's something that we really all should put our heads down and really focus on. So that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, Anna, what are we doing today? A little Q&A agent panel?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I feel like the last few weeks we've had more just kind of stagnant listening, especially last week because you couldn't even get on because I just recorded it and made you listen to me for an hour. So I thought, why not just open up some discussion? And sometimes, it doesn't happen when we've got a single speaker. So I thought, why don't we use this to kind of jump in? Kristen texted me last night and said, what are we talking about tomorrow? And I said, top producer things. Which I know she could hear the way that I said that.
Well, Ryan texted me because she's also on our panel and said, what are we talking about? And I was like, like
top
producer things.
Top producer things. No, I just think, it's good to hear what's been working, what's not been working. Kristen, I know, is on our team. She's had some cool things happen in her business just from doing those consistent things and those reaching out and those emails and those conversations. So I just wanted to open up and have a chance to just go through like what wins have you had in your business? What do you, what lead sources are working for you guys? Just kind of the normal questions. And I don't want to ask them all. So those other 20 of you on this call, please feel free to ask some questions. But if you guys would, Ryan and Kristen, just let us know who you are and where you're at and what you're doing. And Kristen, if you don't know your numbers, I have them pulled up. So if you need help, I'm here. Because I bet you don't.
Ryan, why don't you take it away and let Kristen look up her numbers?
I'm Ryan. I'm in the Beaufort market here. I work with Allison on the Greco group. So I have been an agent for almost 4 years now, and I came on as an agent on the Greco group when I got licensed. So every year I'm grateful that my business has grown. It's been this nice steady growth over the last 4 years. And I actually did a reel the other day because it kind of had an aha moment that one of the things I think that's been helpful for me to stay consistent and to continue growing is I've always treated my business as if I have like a job I have to clock into. I get up in the morning, I have the same morning routine. I get my workout done, I get my self-care stuff done, and then I get dressed for work. Like I have appointments and I come to the office and I have my time blocking set up. And so I say structured. I am not like super structured what I do. I think I mentioned earlier before we were recording that I love to reinvent a wheel. So I'm always trying something new. But I think I'm so consistent at working and being in the office and doing what I do that even my inconsistent actions are consistent. And so, I do email marketing, I'll do newsletters. I've done, a series of videos. I did a Where in the World is Ryan series where I stood outside of my house when we had a hurricane come through and I did a market update, and we were in Vegas and I did a market update. And so I'm constantly trying new things because I get bored, but I think staying consistent and always staying in front of my people in my database has been really helpful for my business.
I love that. I think that you've done a really good job of just like engaging with your database and engaging with your people. I know you were trying at one time different things like Flowdesk. What have you found is the best, like 2 or 3 of the best tools to really like engage with your database?
So Flowdesk I really did enjoy doing, and I had a really high open rate on that. For me to get people to respond back, I always had to have some sort of call to action, and it would be super simple. And so my most recent one, we had an event here at the office for Water Festival. And so I sent an e-blast out to my entire database. And I said, inviting everybody to our event. And I said, if you will do me a favor, respond to this email with either A, B, or C. A being, I'm going to be there, can't wait. B, I'm sorry, I have plans, I can't make it. C, I actually don't live close enough, or I would love to be there. And I had so many people respond, and it opened up the door for me then to reply back or give them a call and just catch up. It's funny, I sent that out in July. I'm still getting responses from that. So I actually had somebody respond the other day with C, and I'm like, okay, you clearly didn't read it because it was in July, but here we are, September, and now I'm going to call you and just say, hey, I'm so sorry that you couldn't make our event, but we've got another one coming up. So call to actions in email marketing, I think, has been really helpful to get engagement.
That's awesome. Kristen, you want to do your kind of intro and give us a few nuggets? You're muted.
Sorry. Am I good there?
You're good.
Yeah, so I've been on Anna's team for about 3 years now, and kind of similar situation, kind of keep growing my business each year. But I think, I'm probably a little bit more relationship driven versus like details and process driven, which I'm trying to get better at. But just really kind of making connections with everybody that I come in contact with in a transaction. And I've kind of had a unique situation where that's led to some pretty big business down the road for me. So I had a contract or buyer clients that closed in new construction in June, and kind of built the relationship through that process with the project manager on the job, and built that relationship, and then had some challenges on the other side with the agent there, and just decided maybe I should reach out to the builder and see if they're potentially looking for somebody else. They're building other communities in other areas around the triangle, and it doesn't hurt to reach out, right? I made that connection. The project manager spoke highly of me, and we got a meeting, and Anna and I met with them, and we're gonna do 11 lots for them next year. So that's
Amazing.
kind of, I think, a big win, but an eye opener for me, that you kind of just have to try. You have to start those conversations. If I had said, oh, there's no way they'll talk to me, or there's no way they'll reach out or respond to my email, then it never would have even happened, right? So just having just keeping those connections, keeping them open, starting the conversations, and doing the follow-up too.
We were in a coaching session one time, and our wonderful coach Kara Mole told us to focus on the D's. And I don't know if some of the people on my team remembers this, but it was like 12 D's. And they said, when you can't think of where you're going to get business, just start writing them down. And it was divorce, diamonds, development, death. Like it was so many things. And so I always think about that when I'm like, God, I need some business. What do I need to do? And I just start writing all the D words down, and I'm like, okay, figure out, like, why are people moving? Why would people be selling? And I think that the development aspect of that is the big one, because we forget. And you've been doing this 3 years now, and you've got the confidence to say, I'm going to send that email, or I'm going to send that text message. An agent on our team heard that a community she lives in was hiring or doing like every year they have to go through and they have to bid for the gate agency. And she called and said, hey, I'm putting our name in the hat for the gate agency. We didn't get it, but I thought it was really cool that she just said, we can do this. We're the best. We're good. Like, that confidence level as you grow as an agent, I think, is what kind of starts to level you up. And you're not in your head so much thinking like, well, I would never get that. Like, well, you have to try,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is kind of getting outside your head, and just saying, I'm definitely not going to get it if I don't at least try. But if I try, there's a chance. And I even, side texted Anna, because she was copied on the email, and she's like, great job. She's always pumping us up, doing a great job as a leader. But, and I kind of laughed, and I'm like, yeah, well, whatever, it's going to spam. He's not going to respond back. And then, we get this email from their marketing guy, and was like, we'd love to meet for coffee and kind of talk about it. So, it was worth kind of, taking that time to do it, and just saying, we get shut down a lot. And I think that's just building that thick skin in this business. But, the wins kind of help soften that a little bit when you do get shut down, because you're going to get shut down.
Question for Ryan, and for you, Kristen, what are y'all seeing with the new NAR changes, being a buyer's agent versus a listing agent? Like, what are some of the aha moments and positives you've had as a response? And then what are some of maybe the challenges?
So I have been pleasantly surprised by the amount of consumers that don't know what's going on. And I actually like when they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, because then I don't want to say make the conversation steer it the way I want it to go, but I can educate them, I think, properly, rather than the headlines that they've read, or, the way the media has spun it. And so I have had really great conversations with consumers that didn't really know what was going on, but I was able to explain it to them, talk to them about it, have them understand that business is really not changing. We're just making it more transparent. We're dissecting this commission conversation into the listing side and the buy side. It's not one whole number now. And so I have had no problems getting buyers to sign. My tactic that I'm doing, if I have a buyer that I haven't met before, and maybe I'm meeting them at the property, is I'm sending them all the information in their email so that they see all the documents, and letting them know that I'm going to be bringing everything with me. But I'm really using that single property representation one first as like my gateway. Like, hey, we have to go into some sort of formal contract in order to see this home. And I explain to them what the single property is versus the exclusive agency. And I say, I don't feel that it's fair to ask for you to sign this exclusive agency since we've just met, but hopefully by the end of this showing and the end of this day, we'll have made a connection and you'll want to move forward with me and hire me as your exclusive agent. But for now, we'll go through the single agency, and that gets us in the door, and that allows us to see this home. And they felt really good. I think it takes pressure off of like not having to sign this long contract in the driveway. And then being able to show my value, have a conversation, make a connection with them. And it's been so easy after that for them to want to sign that next one. So I've actually really enjoyed the process. I mean,
I think what I'm hearing too, though, is like you're educating them at a very high level up front. And I feel like you know the tools that you need to use to have the conversation with them. You're not just saying, oh, well, this is this, and we'll talk about it when we get there. I mean, we've got an NAR question and facts pamphlet that I feel like has been very helpful. Yep, she's got it right there. And Anna and I have kind of created these things on Canva as well, that if anybody needs a copy or anything to kind of recreate for yourself, please let us know. But I feel like those have been very helpful to send ahead of time, and then to have something tangible in your hand that's not just a contract that says, hey, this is something that takes the pressure off a little bit. Yeah, so you got one too. Like, I think it's
Probably the same one.
yeah, they're very similar. Yes, I rip off Anna's stuff all the time. And you can too. All of you ask for it. So
Stuff.
yeah. But I do think that helps. I mean, do you feel like that's a piece that kind of differentiates you from other people, to be able to say, hey, look, I've got things here, not just a meet me in the driveway and hope you like me and think I'm pretty and sign this document.
yeah, I think having like the extra tools has been really helpful. And there's a couple, so I created a buyer folder, like a packet folder on my desktop. And so as soon as I get somebody that wants to start seeing homes that maybe I've never actually met and connected with, I email them that whole packet. And I'm like, here's just some great information for you to understand what real estate looks like now. Because if you were shopping a year ago, it just looks different. And so there's a lot of people that they're chronic home tours. They love to go look at houses. And so all of a sudden, like, these new policies are in play, and they didn't have an agent that was explaining to them along the way. And they're like, well, 4 months ago, I saw 4 houses with, Joe Schmo down the street. And you're like, well, now me asking you to sign a contract, they're like, well, wait a minute, what is this? And so, yeah, I'm trying to stay on top of educating as early in the conversation as I can. And it's just helping transition to that exclusive agency agreement. So like, I had a client yesterday, the first time we met, we did the single property, and he wanted to see another property yesterday. And I was like, okay, remember how our conversation, like, we're going to move into this exclusive agency. I'm going to go ahead and send that to you to sign. And he was like, yeah, no, I'm ready. I think you've definitely shown your value, and I want to hire you. So no, I think, yes, as long as you start the right way in the beginning, I think it's an easy conversation to continue having.
Also,
Brian, can I ask a question there? I was in a coaching with Jeff Glover yesterday, and his team's kind of working through these conversations. One thing on the seller script that we never do on the phone is talk about commissions, right? If a seller says to you, oh, what's your commission? You would say, it's the first thing we'll discuss when we get together. Don't worry, I'll answer any questions you have about it. How are you handling the commission portion of that education piece if it is a dial to meet someone, you don't have that rapport built already?
So I have not had that yet. For any seller listing appointment that I've been on, it's been a past client or referral that I've already talked to in the last month. So I haven't had somebody that I don't know yet. So for me, past client.
Right, what about on the buy side, on the buyer side? So your guy calls you, you get a call in to go show property. Are you handling the commission conversation on the phone, or are you waiting till you're in person to have that conversation for the buy side?
So that's a great question. I'm trying to think of what my script is. I feel like I definitely bring it up, but I don't go in detail. Because what I also do is I then call the listing agent to figure out what the buyer compensation is, so that I have more information to bring them. So I don't want to say, my fee is X amount, and we're just going to have to wait and see what the seller is going to be offering, and then we can decide what you might owe. What I'm doing is calling the listing agent, getting that number and saying, okay, my fee is X amount. I've already reached out to the seller and to the listing agent, and the seller is actually offering X amount as my compensation. So we already know that that's going to be taken care of. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting point yesterday that Jeff was just like, you don't cover commission when you're on the phone with the seller. And so should we be
Right.
covering a full commission conversation, right, on the phone when we've not met someone
Yeah.
in person? I thought it was a really valid point. And basically what they're doing is they're kind of setting appointments and getting as much disclosure out as possible on that phone call, but really working to get in front of them in person to get into the real meat and potatoes of it. And I was just curious how other people were doing it. We don't have a ton of those calls. That's not a big lead source for us. So it's not overwhelming. If anything, I think, Kristen, I think this has helped us because it's making our database who are house curious sign exclusive buyer agencies with us faster. But I know with those one-offs where someone wants to go see a house, conquering the commission conversation. I'm just curious if everyone's doing it.
Typically in my first conversation, it's really just like, let me get them what they're asking for. I don't really talk about commission or any other details. Like, you're wanting to look at this house, I'm going to ask you a little bit about what interests you in that property so that I can maybe find some other ones. And I'm going to make you feel really good in that first conversation. Then I'm going to go set those appointments up and I'm going to call you back. And that second phone call is where I kind of get into a little bit more of like, okay, I've got a set at 123 Main Street at 2 o'clock on Tuesday. You're going to be getting an email from me next, and there's going to be a lot of great information about it. We've had some major industry standard changes, and so I want you aware of them, but we're going to talk about them more in person. And so it's never in that first phone call. It's like, whatever they're calling about, I'm just going to give it to them. I'm going to make them happy. They're going to feel good. And then it's that next phone call that's going to get a little bit, dive a little bit deeper.
I agree. I think that single property agreement is helpful for us. I think it's helping to get agency signed because it's sort of that, conversation starter to get us into that agreement a little sooner than maybe we would have. I mean, I'm guilty of, prior to running around and showing multiple homes to potential buyers that I didn't have agency with, and thinking, knowing that hopefully I'm going to win them over and sign eventually, but this just helps to start the conversation earlier, and I think it helps to just solidify the relationship between us and the buyer early on, which, is helpful for my business, I feel like.
Yeah, we were talking about this in our I think last meeting. If you're on the call and you've got people in your pipeline that seem to be stuck in the funnel, best phone calls and texts we've been sending out have been like, hey, stuff's changed. We're seeing it now about a month out, what it really means for our industry. There's a chance if you're house curious, which is a phrase our team's been using a lot, and you want to go see property that you could end up getting locked down working with an agent that you don't intend to. For that reason, we'd love to sit down, buy a cup of coffee, go grab a beer, whatever your preference is, and just talk about what this means so that you're educated and that you don't find yourself locking down a commission to an agent that you don't want to work with. We've already had it happen. It was a referral from a wealth management group that we work with. That would have been our client to service. They were open to working with us. They tried to, like some buyers do, they tried to help everyone out, just go see the property to see if they were even interested in pursuing it. Signed a single buyer agreement with the listing agent, called the listing agent to say they had made an error. Listing agent held them to it. That listing agent's now getting paid, $25,000, $30,000 commission check. And these people are obviously livid over the fact that they didn't have the representation they wanted. But that's the reality of it is I think you have to remember that there are agents out there not doing a great job probably explaining what people are signing, because they said had they have known what they were signing in its entirety, they certainly would not have signed. But what the buyer is hearing at the door is, if you want to see the property, you have to sign this. And then after that, it's like this. And, it's unfortunate, but it's going to happen. So what we want to do with our pipeline is just make sure we have as few of those as possible. And for us, that's proactively having the conversation. Talk to us, guys, about agent to agent conversations in the post-NAR settlement world. Our team's really been struggling with it here. I don't know, Greco Group, how it's been going for you guys. Kristen, will you lead us off with just a few of the struggles that we're seeing up here? I think they're getting better, but boy, the first
I
week was a
do.
doozy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that first week or two was really bumpy. And it was like, you'd get a text from an agent that was like, what's your compensation? And we were still sort of navigating our language on how we were responding to that. Had listings where sellers were, we truly had not pre-negotiated an amount. So I'm giving a range. And so then I'm sharing that it's just a range, share what you have negotiated on your side to the buyer. And I feel like we're spinning our wheels back and forth, just nobody's committing to a number. Right. And then, I had agents who chose not to tour my listings because of that. And so, I do think it's kind of gotten a little better even in the last week. And I will say that, Anna will die because she's probably like, I never thought I'd hear Kristen say this, but I actually love that we're on the phone with agents again. Like we're having real conversations, because I do think that a lot gets dropped in texts, and you can't really convey the whole message. And I even caught myself yesterday, even in this negotiation with this listing that I got under contract last night, we had already talked several times, but I started to send a message back, and I thought, why am I sending this text? Like, she's not going to totally understand what I'm saying here. Like, I'm picking up the phone, I'm having this conversation and building this relationship early on with this agent, which I think is just, it's critical, because I think we're having, the whole transaction is starting to look a little different now too. We're getting more contingency contracts. We're getting, more pieces to the puzzle, that I think having that initial conversation with the agent and kind of just being transparent with each other about it, it's just important. So just having those agent conversations on the phone early on are good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. It was bumpy here too. I think it probably was everywhere. Because I think you had kind of the spectrum. You had the agents that listened to every Zoom call, was on every single meeting, attended everything, and so they got overeducated on it. And then you had, your middle of the road people that knew what was going on, but maybe didn't quite understand some of the things. And then you had your agents that just kind of, I don't know where they were. They were just
no.
okay. And so I think our word was, we just had to give grace. And we really tried hard, before everything went into play, to have, we have our coffee social, and, we tried to have conversations and bring as many agents as we could into it so that we all felt prepared. But when the time came, it's still, you still had people who just weren't sure what was going on. And then with EXP having their verbiage a little bit different, with the, seller compensating the buyer's agent versus the broker to broker, we had a lot of confusion in our market, with agents thinking that meant that EXP wasn't going to be offering buyer agent compensation at all. And so we had a lot of phone calls come up about that. So I feel like we've worked through most of it. I think some of the chatter is kind of dimmed down a bit, but I agree. Having the agent conversations is big. And I think starting off on the right foot with agents in the very beginning and having conversations is important, because we're all working towards the same goal. We're just because we're on separate sides doesn't mean we're opponents here. Like, we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to make this a smooth transaction and have everybody win in the end. And so I think it's been a huge positive for agents to have to step up and pick up their phone and start making these calls and having better conversations. I think it just supports everybody in the end.
Yeah, I think that some of the bumpiness too, it just came from, if you look at the market, since, let's just go back 2015, right? Allison, you go back a little further, but that pre-COVID market, this is very normal. Like, it was a good market, but people were a little slower to make decisions. You showed more houses. I mean, there was more process in it. 2020 comes along, really end of 2019, and then COVID really just exploded it. And then really like we kind of just ran around like robots facilitating things, but the relationships didn't matter, which at least in North Carolina didn't, because our buyers were putting these ridiculous amounts of due diligence down. There really wasn't a ton of negotiations going on. And then, you know, end of 22, you have everything just kind of come to a screeching halt. And then you add this on. So I think if you look at just the changes in the actual marketplace, it makes sense that, you know, it's been tough for anyone to get their footing and really understand what's normal, what's not normal. And then you throw this on top of it. And I think it certainly, just kind of, you know, threw everyone for a bit of a loop. But yeah, it's getting better here for sure. That first week, man, oof, I thought I was gonna quit. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
But you didn't quit, and we're resilient. We've gotten through it, and change is inevitable, and there's going to be more change, and it's going to continue. And I think that the biggest thing and the whole point of all of this, and the reason we're all sitting here looking at each other's faces on Zoom, is collaboration and understanding that, like Ryan said, we are not against each other. We're with one another. We're here to, you know, collaborate and connect, and we're all looking for the same goal. And I think that as soon as agents start realizing that the other side is not against them, that we are teams to get this to the finish line, it makes everything so much easier. It really does.
What questions do you guys have for anyone? Kristen, Ryan, anybody out there have any questions that we can answer? Any stumbling blocks you're hitting that you could use some help with? Everyone's good. I love that.
I have a question actually.
Good.
Sorry. So I actually did submit a contingent offer yesterday, and I hope that this person is not on this call. I don't think that they are, but we haven't gotten a response in 24 hours, and they're not in multiple offers. It's been on the market for 7 days. And they said that you know, taking it off the market, they expect more due diligence and more earnest money, which I get, but also just counter, right? So what are you guys seeing as far as submitting contingent offers and getting them accepted? Because I've never had this happen before where someone's just not responding to me for 24 hours because we submitted a contingent offer in this market.
Is it because of that, or is it just like I'm seeing a lot of agents are just taking off right now, like lazy, low response times, hard to get a hold of? I don't know if it's just coming off of summer or what, but I mean, are you feeling like the response is because it was a contingent offer?
That's what she told me.
And is it is the agent
in my opinion, we made a strong offer. So we went in at asking. We're not asking for anything, as you know what I mean? So in my opinion, we went in a strong offer, and I told my client, like, hey, we need to go higher due diligence because we're making contingent. So I'm just curious, but I mean, I feel like we made a strong offer with it being contingent.
What market are you in?
I'm in Raleigh.
Yeah. I don't know, Ryan or Eli or Val, we've got over here, but
is the house that's contingent, is it on the market? Is it under contract, or is it?
I'm not putting it on the market and I know it's going to go quick. I talked to my client about, like, I already talked her down pricing. There's literally nothing in where it's near North Hills. And so it's a good location. It's a townhouse. I'm not worried about it. And like, if they said, hey, we're willing to work with you, but we don't want it until it's on the market, that's fine. I'll make it live today. I already have photos. I'm not going to put it on the market unless I know we're going under contract.
Yeah, I think maybe having some trying to get that agent on the phone and just digging deeper and understanding the motivation of the seller at this point. Like, what's their fear behind it? Is it because it's not on the market yet? Is it because they're not confident that it's going to sell right away? Is it because they need a quicker closing? You know, like, I feel like there's a lot of unanswered questions there that you probably need in order to, like, figure out what your next move would be, essentially.
Okay.
Katie, how did you, I don't know why I don't know if y'all can see me. I only see a black screen, but it's Anna. What did you do as far as, like, not specific numbers, but what about timelines for due diligence, earnest money? Is there any additional earnest money? One thing that we talk about, number one, I would resubmit your offer. I would go in and I would create all your marketing collateral with your photos and your price points and all of those things. Let me shut my door. I would get all of that stuff and I would literally put it into a PDF into my offer to purchase so that it's not separable. So that, one second, so that the client that they're representing can actually see the marketing is completed and that it is market ready, it's show ready,
Okay.
it's not some dump somewhere that someone's going to throw on the market. Go ahead and alleviate those fears.
Okay.
We have that. We did it during COVID because we had people that were terrified to move, and like no one was taking contingent offers in COVID. We got a few accepted strictly because we showed them our marketing up front. The second thing you could do is lay a roadmap out. So have your due diligence, have maybe even a tiered due diligence if your buyer's willing to.
Yep.
Hey, we'll give you the initial amount of due diligence that we stated. And then we're going to do, and we have an addendum for this that I'd be happy to share with you. We use it. It's drafted by, I think it's a Newman and Newman addendum, who's a local attorney, but be able to say, okay, and then after 2 weeks, we're going to deposit another amount of due diligence. We're going to have earnest money go hard a week after that, so that we call it kind of like multiple exit points, right? Of that contract, where the seller knows that if the buyer is having trouble getting under contract, that they are going to leave the contract, or the seller is going to be compensated more for the risk of staying off the market. So we call them like exit routes along the way of the contract, and just build in more than even what the North Carolina contract allows for. Build some of your own there. Even if it's a tiered due diligence where you're depositing week by week by week, because what you're trying to do is mitigate that fear of that seller that they're going to get tied up and that they're going to end up in November with a house that they have to put back on the market. So I would try those two things. I would resubmit, and I would try to very clearly explain to that selling agent how you are mitigating the risk of the seller, because that's what they need to be able to present. Sometimes they just don't know how to present that to their, they don't understand how to explain to their seller how the contract mitigates the risk. I wrote a contract personally for myself this past week. And I structured the deal to give the seller the net that she wanted. And she couldn't wrap her head around my offer. She's going to take an offer that the agent told me, and this wasn't the agent's fault. The agent was trying too, but the agent was like, she's going to end up taking less money, significantly less money, because she just couldn't wrap her head around our offer. And, like that is a problem, because sometimes we know what we're doing better, way better than the consumer does. And in our mind, it all checks. We're like, oh yeah, it's all good. Check, check, check. I'm doing everything like I'm supposed to. But in reality, we have to really go more on the ground with those sellers and make sure they really understand, how is your risk being mitigated?
Okay.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too, of like, because I know that they're probably going to come and ask for more due diligence, which it's hard when you don't know if it's going to go under contract, even though I'm confident it will. But I was thinking about doing some sort of staggered,
do that
like
staggered.
that, or even, hey, let's do a 2-week due diligence period now and then extend if we need to.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Anybody got a problem we can solve? Man, this is my favorite kind of call.
I do think getting creative is what has to happen. I also think what Anna mentioned was getting to the bottom line of the client's net and helping them understand how to get into that. I've done 2 deals where the client just said, look, I don't care what the commissions end up being. I really don't. This is the number I want. So if you guys can source XYZ, have at it. But this is the amount of money I want. And so getting really, really good on those seller net sheets, knowing what those numbers are going to be. I did one where the client wanted 1.3, and she said, I do not care if you guys make $400,000 in commission. It does not matter to me. And I want 1.3. And we got the documents yesterday for settlement on Thursday. And her number, she is netting $1,362,000 or $1,300,062. She got $62 more than she wanted. And we actually got more than, typically on that kind of price point, we would end up going to like the 2.5%. You always feel like it's a past client and you reduce, et cetera. We ended up getting a full 3% commission on it. And it was great. And the buyer's agent made money, and it didn't, it was sourced from the contract and all of the above. So everybody was happy. And it was a lot easier just to kind of like flip it the way that we perceived it. And we said, hey, look, Mr. Seller, what do you want out of this? Instead of saying, sign this document, we want 6% commission. It worked itself out, and it was very transparent, and it worked really well.
Yeah, I found myself negotiating on a listing last week, and the agent came in with, a lower offer and 3% commission, and they wanted the bonus that we were advertising if it got closed by the end of the year. And you know what I did, honestly, and it was a good agent. It was a good agent on the other side. But eventually I was like, look, man, I was like, and with my seller's permission, which I had a builder. So again, they're more versed in it, but I just ran the net sheets 3 or 4 ways. And I said, look, I'm not trying to influence your commission. You charge whatever you want to charge. I'm just showing you a couple ways that we can get to what their bottom line has to be in order for them to sign a contract for your client. And so I think we're going to, those net sheets are going to become, I think, very centralized to what we do on a very daily basis. So if you're not using them, you better get used to it. And I think, having that conversation with your seller, and buyer's agents being curious enough to ask, what do I need to get on the bottom of this net sheet to make this deal work for your clients, right? Like, share that with me so that I can build a net sheet that will work for them and that I can have transparency with my client and share with them what we need to do. Because that's what it's always been about. It's always just been kind of hidden behind the scenes because at least one side of the table wasn't having to work out those commissions the same way we're having to do now. So.
Well, good. I do want to leave this with a little shout out to JD on the Greco group. He is crushing it. He put his head down. He's got 2 listings coming on the market in the next week, and he's already put, I think, 2 on the market within the last 10 or 12 days. And I think it really is about consistency. JD, you want to leave anybody with kind of a quick 2-minute elevator pitch on what to do?
I guess I've just been pounding the expireds and for sale by owners, and you just got to show a little bit of value, I guess, and continue after them. Even if they say no, pound them. Like I said in that meeting, pretend they got the kidney that your dad needs and you got to go get it. That's basically it.
Yeah. No, we're very proud of you, and we're so wonderful and great to collaborate with. And we're so happy to have you guys. And we appreciate everybody that continues to support Agents Empowered and get on. And we are always looking for feedback. If you have speakers that if you would like to be a speaker, we want to make sure that we are opening this to everybody. And we're always here. So reach out to Anna or I anytime.
Next week, Jeff Anderson, who is a trainer at Call Team, will be on. He did an open house presentation last week. I heard amazing feedback on it. I think Mary, who's on the call, was like, oh my gosh, it changed my whole thought process on open houses. So I was sitting next to Jeff in our other Jeff's training yesterday, and I said, can you come on? And then after that, on the 25th, we have Holly Brewer. Holly Brewer has been a top Rodan and Fields associate for better part of a decade or more. As you know, Rodan and Fields, along with a few other of those multi-level marketing programs, changed their structure. And I'm so excited for Holly to come on because you're talking about something she spent years building, and then the whole system being pulled out from underneath her. We were trying to have her on last week and we had some scheduling, but I think it's a very, very important message for realtors to hear because she's really having to go and reinvent. And this is someone who literally built a company, right? Thousands and thousands of women in her organization at Rodan and Field. So very, very excited to hear Holly talking about pivoting and resilience and all the things that I think our industry could definitely use right now. So we've got 2 really good weeks ahead of us. So make sure you're logging in, make sure you're inviting people. And as always, recordings are up on YouTube, so you can always go back and rewatch for nuggets. But anything else people have during the week, ping us, let us know what you need. We're here. Katie, let me know if you need help on.
Yeah, and before you guys pop off, EXP threw this out there yesterday and I didn't see it, but Ryan and I are super excited about it. They are doing a virtual Tony Robbins event tomorrow morning at 8:30 for EXP. If you need the link, please reach out and let us know. But it's, I think, an hour long, right, Ryan? And then there's going to be some follow-up stuff.
8:30 to 10 tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Yeah, really cool. Tony Robbins is going to be doing the virtual event for EXP. And so log on, register. It's free, but that's going to be a really cool thing to plug into.
Thanks, Kristen. Thanks, Ryan.
Bye, guys.
Katie for the questions. Great job.